Dr. Lisa Cameron.
Many thanks, Madam Deputy Speaker. I wish you excellent St Andrew's Day, and I'm aware of your very strong Gaelic connections. Thank you. I'd also like to thank the Backbench Business Committee for supporting this important debate, and also the Honourable Member from Bracknell for a very comprehensive speech and for encouraging this debate to take place. I'd also like to declare an interest in terms of my husband having previously served as a member of the UK Armed Forces. Due to recent events, there has been much debate regarding the issues in the Middle East and what the UK's role and approach to this should be, particularly in relation to the matter of extending airstrikes to Syria. This is a matter that was discussed at length on Thursday when the Prime Minister delivered his statement. Whilst the Prime Minister is not pushing for a vote at this stage, he has indicated that he will do so, and a vote of this nature appears to be imminent. Therefore, the need for continued debate is imperative, and this debate is extremely timeous. This is a serious and sensitive issue which has significant and wide-ranging implications for our armed forces, for their families, and for our response to the Middle East. I am aware that I do not want to, throughout the seriousness of this debate and in conclusion of it, be creating more families which have gone through trauma, such as the Gentle family. There are concerns that extending airstrikes to Syria may be ineffective, cause further human suffering, and could help increase Daesh's recruiting appeal. There appears to be a consensus amongst many military experts in the area that there is likely to be little benefit to such action. It is recognised that a significant number of nations have already launched bombing campaigns in Syria, with the campaign by the US already ongoing for approximately 1 year, so the suggestion that additional airstrikes by the UK will make any significant difference appears unlikely.
My honourable friend give way.
I would indeed.
I thank my honourable friend for giving way, and would ask my honourable friend, would she join me in congratulating our First Minister, Nicola Sturgeon, on her invitation to host an International Women's Summit for peace in Syria? And does she agree with me that it's peace negotiations such as these that our world leaders should be engaged in, rather than further bombing which only stoke the fires of war?
Here.
Many thanks for the intervention. I would indeed congratulate the First Minister, and I would also emphasise that diplomacy is a very important way forward. Nick Whitney, Senior Fellow at the European Council on Foreign Relations, has highlighted that the year-long US campaign against Islamic State in Syria is now widely acknowledged to have had remarkably little impact beyond strengthening that organisation's narrative of oppression by crusaders and therefore its recruiting appeal, a view which is endorsed by Scottish Muslim groups who highlight that as more innocent people die from the airstrikes, the appeal of Daesh may be strengthened. In this regard, it is also important to remember that many of the recent terrorist attacks which have triggered the consideration of airstrikes have been carried out by individuals who are already living in the countries involved. Therefore, the issue of domestic threat is unlikely to be addressed via airstrikes. The Foreign Affairs Select Committee report emphasised a number of key issues which require further explanation before asking the House to approve a motion authorising military action. This included consideration of important matters such as legality, ground troops and long-term strategies and consequences, which have been highlighted as crucial in the successfulness of any military action. The answers provided by the government to date have not, I feel, been adequate at addressing these concerns. I would indeed.
Most grateful to the Honourable Giving Way, making a very interesting point. Was she not here when she heard the chairman of the Foreign Affairs Select Committee say that the 6 points that he'd raised by the government have been adequately answered, 7 points, have been adequately answered by the Prime Minister's statement last week, and that he intends to support the government in their call for strikes against Syria?
I was indeed here for the debate, and I did hear the chairman state those views. I would, however, indicate that I don't believe his views are held commensurately by all of the members of the committee.
Here.
Ordinary citizens do not live apart from ISIS terrorists, and youths over 14 years are reportedly conscribed. Those unable to flee are in effect human shields. They are not able to hide in the tunnels dug out by ISIS to shelter its commanders. Bombing is generally a prelude to ground forces. but we do not intend to send ground forces, relying on around 70,000 local fighters from the Free Syrian Army. Where do Russian forces stand, and is this an effective ground forces strategy? Will we be striking Syria for political reasons, to show our strength as part of a coalition? It may be fallacy that bombing will hasten any political settlement or prevent terrorist attacks here. There are few, if any, in this House who would not wish to see action that would swiftly degrade Daesh or ISIS, but widespread concern remains on a number of fronts. The danger to civilian casualties which may inflame anti-Western feelings. An overall strategic aim of such action, how much bombing will be enough, and the position on the longer-term outcome in Syria. Will engaging in airstrikes reduce our risk tier in the short or in the long term? Whilst much of the focus has been on Syria, I'd also briefly like to highlight that there are other areas in the Middle East where civilians are suffering due to the effects of civil war, such as Yemen. It is important, therefore, that people receive appropriate attention and assistance. Oxfam highlight that prior to the conflict in Yemen, millions of people already experiencing issues with poverty and hunger. However, since the escalation of this war in March 2015, these issues have intensified. There have also been over 32,000 casualties and 5,700 fatalities. It is reported that at present approximately 82% of the population are in need of humanitarian aid. Whilst it appears that there has been a positive impact from some of the support that the UK has provided thus far, there continues to be a need for much further aid for affected civilians and for diplomatic pressure to be exerted by our government. In conclusion, we need a coherent UK approach across the Middle East, linking humanitarian, economic and diplomatic means. This appears lacking, as does any strategic long-term approach to the difficulties faced by the Middle East, encouraging stability at this time. We hope to work constructively across this House to ensure a progressive response to the UK's role in the Middle East that engages civic society, progressive policy and survival of society in Syria and beyond. Questions remain to be answered, however. Solutions are complex, and a clear and long-term military strategy requires to be developed and fully presented to this House. Thank you.